content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. But before I get things started, you know what I gotta do. I gotta give a shout out to all of the members of the Green Gorilla channel. I want to give a shout out to Jones Boy, Ryan Jackson, The Face, Mr. Heat, David the Man, Afro Analyst, NEU, Ronan Martin, Black Wizard ADOS, Camp Low, Issa Abdul Sahir, Anthony Taylor, Deshaun Nolly, Ab Media 83, Aaron Lloyd, Leroy Honeycutt, MLR, Julius Ferguson, Charles Rogers, Black Dog, Brother Love, Infamous Chillin', Randall, Universal 178, Blacksword 404, Rashid Barnes, Aaron Smith, The Walt Diddy Show, DH, C-Truth the Revelator, Gold Professor, The Nameless Protagonist, Black Pill Ned Stark, Arthur Unknown, Odd Collard, Roderick Jackson, Dr. Tiasan Johnson, Brian Williams, Kalan Jakala, Sherrod Martin, Ricky Dawson, Cedric Bowman, True 7360, BK Born Shaheed, James Washington, Hostile Adeb, Seventh Coast Dojo, Shop Talk Live, WPR1, Rogish the Billmonger, I Care, Forrest Windu, Lady Miss Thing Green, BGS Ibmore, and Marvin Battle Jr. Thank you so much for being members of the Green Gorilla channel. And if you would like to know how to become a member of the Green Gorilla channel, well, here's how. What's good, everybody? I'm the G with a PhD, and you're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up, no chaser. Today, I want to introduce you to my new membership program that consists of 5 levels where you can invest in the Green Gorilla channel on a monthly basis and receive level-specific perks. Memberships are special because they improve the quality of the content of the channel and will help me to be able to keep the channel going. Now, to participate in the Green Gorilla channel membership program, all you have to do is hit the join button, which is located right next to the subscribe button on my channel page. Now, for all of my subscribers who decide not to participate in my membership program, nothing will change. The content will keep coming the way it always has. Thanks for watching, and be careful out here, people. Bless. What's good, y'all? I'm back. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up with no chasers. So, just to remind you, Just as a reminder, the content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. We keep free speech friendly conditions over here at the Green Gorilla channel, unless you're offensive to one of us in our kind, and then we will have to summarily dismiss you, treat you like a wet food stamp, let you know what time it is, to let you know we ain't gonna take no bullshit, because we don't fuck around and take bullshit. We don't do that around here. But I want to give a shout out to some people right now, man. I want to give a shout out to Art Dale and Art New Style TV. What's good, team? What's good, dog? November 17th, 1911, Omega Psi Phi till the day I die. What's good, dog? What's good, team? And I would put on the music, but I'm not trying to get a copyright strike. You understand? I'm trying to monetize the channel. But root to the bros, dog. Root to the bros. And by the way, since I am saying root to the bros, I got a special guest today. He is a bruh. They call him Sand Dog. What's good with you, team?
Dog. Well, shout out to the Qs, man. You look great to be 109 years old. Happy Founders Day.
Happy Founders Day, bro. Happy Founders Day.
Man, my social media was on fire. I didn't even know I knew that many bros, man. Just from top to bottom on my feed was fire.
Yeah, man. It's like that. Usually the bros will be out congregating and having set outs all around the city, wherever y'all be or wherever we be. But, it's the quarantine time, man. They got that COVID thing. So, we got to be careful, man. It's going to be like little set outs and shit here and there. But, it's safe for the bros to stay at home right now. We don't want any unnecessary death occurring in the frat, because we, being reckless out here. Number two, you feel me? Number two, baby, you know what I'm saying? Well, they ain't gonna understand that, but I know what I'm talking about. You got to show some of that. Can't be out there, man.
You got to, but God willing, though, man, I was talking to my old room dog, man, and God willing, in 2022, I'll be there in full force.
That's right. That's right. So hopefully everything will dissipate and things will get back to some level of normalcy. But as it stands, we gotta keep things kind of, in moderation here. We gotta show that too. You know what I'm saying? We have to.
Yeah.
We have to, man, and we have to, exercise some ingenuity, man, and find other ways to fellowship right now. You know what I'm saying? So, but glad to, to see you in the house today, bro. It's good over there in the UAE.
Yeah, it's all good. It's starting to cool off now because like I said, our summers be like $120 and better. So now it's starting to cool off, man. And so we get a nice 80-degree winter out here.
Right, for sure. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Heat, man. Thank you, Mr. Heat, for your contribution this afternoon. I really appreciate it. Well, this evening actually, because after 5 p.m. is evening time. But thank you for the contribution, sir. And look, let me just say this. I know it seems like I'm doing shameless plugs in order to promote, y'all supporting the channel. But it is necessary, man, for y'all to support the channel if you can, if you have the capacity, because it improves the quality of the content of the channel. It allows me to make improvements. And I'm pretty sure you're all pleased with the improvements. I'm adding little elements here and there to try to upgrade the quality of the presentation of the channel. And that's, I want to keep that kind of progression going. So please, if you can, make a contribution to the Green Gorilla channel. One thing I want to talk about though, man. I recently had a well, yesterday I went on a roast session and some Italian dude, man, and I don't know if you had the opportunity to hear that. Uh, I don't
No, I didn't get to hear
apologize.
it.
Huh? You didn't hear it?
No, I didn't get to hear it. No.
Okay, so yeah, um, I did it and I took it down to only where the members of the channel could see it or can imbibe it. They could, peruse it. But I mean, I was, I'm not gonna say I was out of character. I was in the right character at the right time for the right reasons, you know.
Yeah.
And and let me just say this: I don't take disrespect very well. You know what I'm saying? Especially disrespect towards black men. And
Yes.
it's not, especially with what we're doing here on the channel. We like to keep things a matter of fact, and we like to tell historical narratives that are based in the conditions of black people in the United States and not sugarcoat it, not try to explain them away to make people feel comfortable, whether you be on, the right or the left, whether you be black or white, or, whether you have an ethnic origin that you terminate as Hispanic, or, that you label Latino, Asian. It doesn't matter what.
Yeah.
Okay, we like to keep things a matter of fact on this channel, and we don't worry about feelings, and we don't worry about political correctness, because to me, political correctness is the enemy of nuance and the truth about the matters that have taken place in these here United States. Right? Political correctness is the conditions right now under which we are policed, such that we can't even speak to our own oppression without being labeled as reverse racist.
Yes.
We don't.
Facts.
I'm not. I am not accepting any of that bullshit. Not here. You hear me? Hey Q's.
Yeah.
Hey Q.
Yeah.
Hey, look. We are not taking that bullshit, man. And look, we will be respectful to anyone. If you have a different opinion, whether you be a man, a woman, you could even be a child. If you're respectful to us, if you have a differing opinion, we will allow you to voice your opinion and we can engage in debate. But if you come on the channel, if you make comments and you come with derogatory language, or if you try to humiliate or deprecate us, we will retaliate. Bottom line, because we drop bombs too. That's what we do. You feel me? So T Fitness for you, thank you, sir. I appreciate your contribution. I really do. And also, I want to give a shout out to Eric Price, who hit me up in the Cash App. Thank you, sir, man. Your contribution is above, it goes above and beyond. Thank you, sir. I gotta give you a shout out for that, man. So look, bruh. So look, I just want to draw some attention, man. I love the fraternity, man. You understand what I'm saying? I love my fraternity, man. And unfortunately, man, there was a young brother, man, who I had the opportunity to have a conversation with in my comment section, and he wasn't feeling too well about his fraternity, man. He had a bad experience with his own fraternity, you know. And
Yeah.
you look, sometimes shit gets out of hand. I don't know what other people's experiences have been with their own organizations, you know. Things can get out of hand. You know, you got young men, you get alcohol, you get power, and then you get the abuse of power in some situations. You know, it happens. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And you know, I can't apologize for what happened to him during his situation, you know. But these organizations were not created for black men to kill one another.
Facts.
Do you understand what I'm saying? These organizations weren't killed for black men to destroy and humiliate one another.
Facts.
These organizations were intended to uplift black men. Now, there are some people who are members of these organizations who, to some degree, can become members of an elite class of persons without being mindful of the principle of uplift.
Correct. Or so they believe to be elite.
See, you know what? Our fraternity, man, is built on manhood, scholarship, perseverance, and uplift. You feel me? Those are our
Correct.
cardinal principles. You feel me?
Facts.
Uplift, man. It's not about pushing people down. It's not about being elitist to the point where you're better than somebody else. That's not what it's supposed to be about, man. It's not about I'm better than you because I'm a member of this organization. To be honest, man, that's some cat shit right there. You feel me?
Correct.
That's the way I feel, man. That's my feelings. You know, I'm not in a position to where, oh, he a GDI, which is a goddamn individual. That's what we call it. Or,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that I'm better than anybody. All I want to say is, man, you could take anything that exists and use it for constructive and positive behavior, or you could take it and use it for destructive and malignant aims and endeavors. So you have to be mindful and vigilant of what you ought to be doing in order to uphold and to keep whatever has been given to you in good faith and to make better with it than your ancestors did. You understand what I'm saying, dog?
True.
So let's just keep that. We got somebody here. I'm gonna let him speak before we get into the main discussion, just to see what he has to say, and then after that, we'll get back into the regularly scheduled programming. Is that cool with you, saying, dog?
Dog, let's do it.
Liquid Osalet, what's how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. Can y'all hear me clearly?
We can hear you very loud and clear. What you got to say to us on this fine day, my brother?
Chilling. I seen the topic that you were about to discuss in regards to the Arabian origins of Black people, and I just wanted to highlight a book that I had caught like not too long ago. It's a pretty expensive book, but the name of the book is The African and Arabian Origins of the Hebrew Bible: A Linguistic Archaeological Study by Dana Richards Machine. So she basically highlights a lot of the linguistics and the cultural um, situations in regards to that topic that you're about to touch into. And I also had this book not too long ago, the other joint, the wonderful Ethiopian Cushites
Okay.
by and it highlights. Hold on, it's the same by Drusilla Dungy Houston. So it gets into the topics heavily in regards to what you're about to get into about the origins. And it's funny that I was watching the video earlier today about brothers highlighting a lot of Islam was mixed into the West African situation, and that a lot of that came over here, and this is steep in the culture because during that time period, during the during around that time period when we were interacting with Islam in West Africa, a lot of the cultural linguistics are still out here, and it came over with us during the slave trade. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. I don't know if it's clear enough to you what I was just basically trying to display, because I see you was about to get into that, or am I just reaching? I don't know.
No, you're not reaching, brother.
Okay.
So we haven't got into the conversation yet, and
Okay.
I'm gonna put you on background, and you can stay if you want to hang out,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then we'll get into that. When the conversation begins to unfold and develop and becomes more robust and richer.
Okay.
But at the current moment, what we want to do is just I'm gonna let Sandog speak his piece and speak to this issue
Okay.
because he requested to have a conversation about it, and so he's a knowledgeable brother. He lives in Arabia now.
Okay.
Okay, and
Cool.
so he is an African American, of course, and
Okay.
He's also, I forgot to tell you, did I mention he's a member of the greatest fraternity in the world? Omega Psi Phi. But look, so I'm gonna put you on pause for a minute, okay, my brother Liquid.
No problem.
All right. Our Nooster brother, what's good, dog team?
Well, it's McGill.
Yeah.
It's on.
Yeah.
Ha. Follow that.
Right.
Let me see. I
I
see the funky folk corners.
said the funky folk corners.
The funky folk corners with a hop and a twist.
There you go.
Yeah. What's going on, dog?
What's up, dog team? Hey, look, I hope you sitting down doing that shit. You ain't standing up right now.
I'm old, man. I did about 25 last week.
Right, yeah.
25 for me.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
my knees ain't taking that.
My knees can't take it either, bro. You know, I told Sandog, man, we can only do what we can do when we can do it. You know, you go down to that James Brown split, bro. You might not get up. You feel?
Oh, it's over. It's over.
Know, you might fuck around and get a hernia on that joint.
Dog,
right
I'm gonna
there,
tell
man.
you, man. We're at homecoming now with the creased jeans and the dress shoes and the red cup. You know what I'm saying? We in old bro territory now.
Yeah, man. You start getting them 20 years in. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, you start getting them 20 years in, bro. You know, it's a wrap then. You know, but you know, it's all to the good, man. You know, I just wish we could be out fellowshipping and doing, you know, more, you know, be more social. But you know, that'll come again. You know.
The bros gave me an idea, so I think I'm gonna try to do it weekly or bi-weekly. Just have a bruh panel talk about different issues.
Oh, that's dope, man.
It's so many bros around. I mean, Sandog will tell you we had a lot of physical fifth bros come through.
Okay, physical fifth. So okay,
they took over, dog. They took over.
Yeah, they.
So we
had a panel and they took over the panel.
Dog, it was like they came deep.
Damn, they came deep like, but you know, I hope y'all had the visor down.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we use a D, but you know.
Welcome, Sister Kendra.
yeah. Okay.
Is
Kendra in the house?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, because I can't see, you know, some people I can see, but I can't see everyone. But man, look, all right, man, I need to rap to you too, man. There's some something I'm trying to do. And I'm not at liberty to, you know, keep it open or open it up to the public. You know, that visor's down also. So,
okay, I sent you a couple of emails.
You did send me an email, right?
Yeah, because I sent one about today. So,
okay. Well, right on, dog. I haven't checked my email today, man. I've been going through some things with WordPress, man. I'm trying to get a website up and running, and
I got
man,
you.
Everything is a learning curve, man. You start making videos, that's a learning curve.
Yeah, all the time, dog. I got it.
You know, now I'm trying to learn OBS, Open Broadcast software, and there's a learning curve to that.
You're doing better than me.
But I mean, you know, that's where at some point that's where the real you know, production value is going to come in when you start using OBS. Because StreamYard is good, but StreamYard is limited in what it enables you to do in relation to, you know, doing B-roll, interpolating different views and looks, main screen, out screen, you know, animation on the screen. OBS is the shit. So I got to learn how to use it. So
yeah, I might go further into it, you know, because I think I might have a short time, depending on what I do from, you know, as far as a promotion or whatever. I might have to leave YouTube, but if I don't get that promotion, then I'm here to stay for a while. So
I hear you, brother. You know,
but yeah, I definitely do.
We'll miss you, man. And all that good artwork you produce.
Man, I'm trying, man. I'm just trying to, you know, contribute something, man. But I ain't gonna hold you up. I thought I'd throw some support, give a shout out for the Founders Day, 109 years.
For sure. Well, thank you, man. 109, man. Maybe, you know, I wish you would live to see 109 more.
We will. Just put it in the universe, dog.
There you go.
All right, dog. We be in touch. Roo.
So look, what we're gonna do is take a quick break, and then we're gonna come back, and I'm gonna let Sandog lay his demonstration down, and then we're gonna have a conversation and chat about that. All right. So we'll be right back, and then after that, we'll come back, and Sandog will take us in.
Root.
The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. Yeah, so we're back. I'm joined here with my illustrious team member, my man Sandog, also known as Admiral Smoke, and he hails from the United Arab Emirates, and he's going to give us a presentation about the connection between pre-Islamic Arabia and African Americans. And yeah, I see what you said there, Crimson Cure. I need to talk to Valdez anyway. So eventually, I know how to get in contact with him. So I need to rap to him. So that's a good idea. But at any rate, Sandog, man, kick the wisdom to us, man, and let us know what was on your mind and why this is
Root.
important and relevant.
Rule, man. May God protect us from the curse shaitan. What I wanted to discuss today, a team with you and the people that are out there, is for African Americans to know that we are not necessarily the first people to be in the plight that we're in, right? As they say that there's nothing new under the sun. And then there have been others in the past in history that have been caught up in similar situations as ourselves, right? And so pre-Islamic Arabia is one such civilization. And then, so I wanted to come and discuss, again, a lot of the dysfunctions that we had in common, and then how Islam came as a solution for these types of problems, right? So in pre-Islamic Arabia, what many will call those times is that they will call those times the day of Jahiliyyah, right? The days of Jahiliyyah. And Jahiliyyah means the days of ignorance, right?
Okay.
So that's what it'll be. It'll be the days of ignorance. And during the days of ignorance, they would do things like bury young girls alive, right? So if you had a daughter as a first child, she would be buried alive. They had a caste system, or like kind of like a social caste system and hierarchies, right? There was even other forms of like racial bigotry. You couldn't move through the hood. You know how we are today, right? If I'm from one side of Brooklyn and you from the other side of the Brooklyn, right? Unless you know somebody or you connected, you can't move through that hood, right? The same thing again when you talk about people being caught up in materialism, right? Which could be a form of idol worship, right? And so these are the kind of the things that that I wanted to take it and go into. So, for example, when you talk about family, the Prophet of Islam, peace be upon him, when he was born, shortly after he was born, he had lost his parents. And then, like many of us, he was raised by his grandparents. And Islamically speaking, now, here's what's very interesting, especially as it pertains to us in the Black community. Islamically speaking, did you know that a child without a father is considered an orphan? The mother could still be alive, but if the father has passed away, the child or absent, the child is considered an orphan.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? In the like I said, in the absence of a father. And so
Right.
what? And so what? What you? Pardon, team?
No, I just said right.
Yeah,
I didn't say
and so
anything.
so the child could be he could be an orphan. I mean, even in the absence of father, he could be an orphan. And so, a lot of this too is to impress upon people that no matter what your beginnings are in life, that you can grow up and that you can be something. Because for the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he had an extraordinarily tough life, right? So, his first wife passed away. Uh, his sons, many of his children had passed away, during his lifetime. And so what you learn from the life of the prophet, peace be upon him, is that you learn that your beginnings and your losses, right, don't necessarily have a complete outcome of where you're going to end up and where you are, because a lot of people will lose faith and hope in the circumstances that they find themselves in, right? And so, started with one of the first parallels in our community is back in the day during pre-Islamic Arabia, right? You know how today, like how we have child support and, tag you're it, right? Without the DNA test. So there was a time where certain types of ladies, when they were ready to engage men, they could put out like a little flag or something like that in front of their tents, right? And then, people would come and they would entertain. And what happened was, Gigi, if the woman popped up pregnant, that baby could come out looking just like me, but she can say, Green Gorilla was with me, and Green Gorilla is wealthy. My child will have a good life. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be taken care of. So tag it, Green Gorilla. You did it.
Mm. Sound
Right?
like a lot like today. Sound like some
Yeah,
Jerry
so
Springer
yeah.
shit, huh?
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So it sounds, so like you said, so it sounds a lot like today. So in terms of, so when you look at, so now when you look at the black family unit, right, in terms of a child without a father is deemed an orphan, right? Then, like I said, then you had women who were engaged. Then you had some women who were engaged in these kind of practices. You can see that we are not the first community or group of people on earth to have these types of problems, and that ultimately there is a solution for that problem, right? And so now and so now you have that. Also in the pre-Islamic era, you had poets, right? A lot like how we have rappers today. And so what happened with the poets, Green Gorilla, was the poets would have eloquent words and people would come listen to them, right? And so the beautiful thing about Islam is that when you recite the Quran, it flows like poetry. It rhymes. And so when people first heard it, they thought that it was amongst some of the most beautiful poetry that they heard. So even when they had to, even from the pagan Arabs, who were the enemy of Islam at first, when they would send their spies to go out and listen, they would get caught up in it. And they'd be like, man, it was so beautiful. And they was like, well, I thought you were supposed to be there just spying. And he's like, nah, I'm just saying. And so what happened was that over time, they used to try to get the poets to challenge the revelation of the Quran. And what happened was, and so when you compare that now, in Arabia, then you could raise your status by being an excellent poet, right? What group of people that are alive today, where if you're an excellent poet, your status will be elevated?
Yeah, I get it. So you saying
You know what
the
I'm saying?
rappers?
With like I said, with with hip hop, with with hip hop and everything else, right? And so like I said, we and the people of pre-Islamic Arabia again had these types of conditions, and again, it was the same thing. So, for example, when you look at things like alcohol and gambling, right? Now, what you have to remember is that the Quran was introduced in a period of 23 years. And so this is what a lot of people don't get. So when God gave Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Quran, it was done in a period over 23 years. So that way, people weren't bashed over the head with it, right? The revelation came in bits and pieces. And as revelation came, it would come in regards to a particular circumstance that involved particular groups of people at the time. So when gambling was prohibited, right, what God did in that time frame was that he allowed the people to see the harm or the benefit that was in it. So that's why in the beginning, the people were able to turn away from it so easily, because they were given that time period. So when you look at something like gambling and shooting dice, and again, man, Sandog used to be king of that clickety clack. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Hold on, man. You used to
Yo,
roll the dice, saying?
dog, dog, the force was strong with this one, right? And I used to be the king of the clickety clack, and and so in the culture at the time, there was benefit in gambling. It wasn't all bad, because back then when cats would gamble, if I won $100, I might take half of it and give it to charity, because that's what they used to do. But then they would say, look, overall, what I'm saying, it's a bad thing, right? And then even with alcohol and intoxicants in regards to in drugs in regards to being in control over oneself. And so when revelation came down to walk away from alcohol, because the people had seen the harm in it, man, they just straight up poured it out. They poured it out. Everybody poured out their alcohol to the such that it flowed out like a tiny river across the sand when they decided to walk away from it.
Man, that's a hell of a thing, though, man, for those people who have made that kind of conversion. That was a deep conversion, man. It
Yeah,
didn't
in
happen
fact,
exactly. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, go ahead, team. I'm not what you say.
No, I mean the conversion wasn't. It didn't take as long as the conversion that took place with Christianity. Okay, because I mean,
No.
Christianity is something that developed slowly. In the ancient world, uh,
Hmm.
and I know about the various mystery cults that existed before Christianity became the paramount religion in the Western world, and we also know that the Emperor Constantine is the one who decided to take it up as the official religion of Rome and to conquer the known world with it, not to save the known world with it, but to destroy, and to expand the European imperial, uh, project with that religion. Uh, so what? So what's the solution? I mean, like for black folks, then, if it's the case that because you're drawing a parallel between our situation and that of pre-Islamic Arabia, okay?
Correct.
So you're not
And
you're not
so,
trying to you're not trying to talk about Africans and their existence within the context of pre-Islamic Arabian civilization, but you're trying to give a commentary on the idea that there's an analogy that can be drawn between the condition of those people and ourselves here in the American or the Western landscape in general.
correct. So like I said, and then it's not just that team, but it's also too in terms of it also being a solution for us. Because what happens is that you're talking about something that would provide a cultural shift, right? Because it Islam is not just a way of it's not just a religion, but it's also a way of life, and even to the point where it has laid out laws and principles of jurisprudence in terms of courts, how to manage a state. So even the whole concept of the Fifth Amendment, that one cannot incriminate themselves, comes out of Islamic jurisprudence.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
You know what
like,
I'm saying?
there's a lot. Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, nothing spreads immediately. Okay, so I know that there were a lot of warring tribes within Arabia, and I also know that like there were different caliphs. You know,
Yeah, the caliphs, yeah.
yeah, in early Islam. Talking about the time like you had the Rashidun caliphs and the Umayyads
Correct.
during like the 610 to 750, and then you had the Abbasids from about 750 to the 1200s, and they weren't always seeing eye to eye. I mean, that's just the nature of human beings, though, and their understanding of spirituality or just power struggles within the domain of religious or organized religious institutions. But what do you think? I mean, because I've always thought this to myself. I'm like, well, what could change the outlook and the moral value system of African Americans right now? Because we're in the belly of the beast.
Yes.
We
But
are black people are in the belly of mammon. I mean, we exist in mammon right now, and every perversity is being extolled as a virtue right now in this culture. And
correct.
anything from premarital sex to adultery to murder to robbery to usury to the abandonment of fatherhood to the dissolution of the family unit. I mean, there's just so much dysfunctional about this culture in this society. And what is it possible to even do? Because of course, when it came to Islam, we had Muhammad.
Yes.
So you would have to have a figure analogous to Muhammad to repair
Yes.
this. But then the question becomes, okay, well, how could that happen nowadays? Given given the context in which, because it's not the early 7th century. This, you know what I'm saying? Like we're in the 21st century, and I'm not
Yes.
saying so I'm just not being critical, but I'm saying, like, how would that transformation take place given the times that we live in now? And then also the kind of overwhelming precedents that have already been set by Christianity and Islam. Like, could this look like something altogether new and different, or must it come in the form of Islam? Like, what form must it come in your estimation?
So I'll tell you this. So what happens is that the laws of Islam are very practical, right? And see, and I'm going to say something. What happens is the reason why it's scary for a lot of people, especially in our community, leave out other communities. One of the reasons why it's scary in our community is because it is associated with discipline. And it's something that requires discipline. And a lot of people want to be free enough to engage into the behaviors that they want to engage into, right? I'll tell anybody, the fastest way to destroy a man is to give him everything he wants.
Yeah, that's one of the things I made mention of the last time you and I were together on the stream.
Yeah.
Namely, that your fulfillment of every carnal desire does not really actually result in bliss. In actuality, too much pleasure can lead to the degradation of your vessel. So, too much comfort. And this is and I think that something analogous can be said about culture as well. And I think that that's what the United States or the Western world in general is experiencing. There's too much comfort. There's not enough discipline. Everything is about being, free and experiencing and enjoying pleasures outside of the context of those pleasures being of a healthy kind or a fecund kind. And what I mean by fecund is that it gives rise to other pleasures in return. Like, because some pleasures are not pure. Like the pleasure of alcohol is immediate, but it doesn't have a fecund, a path of pleasure to come after it. Because you get headaches. If you keep things in moderation, that's one thing. But like if you do too much alcohol, what happens? You get headaches. You get sick. The same with cigarettes. So immediate pleasure, but then you can get sick and get cancer. So some pleasures, like, say for example, the pleasure of learning to play chess and getting good at it. That's a pleasure that will blossom into greater and a more robust kind of pleasure afterwards. or even the pleasure of learning how to operate WordPress or OBS software. Like once you learn the intricacies of it, it brings about greater rewards in the future. Yeah, but some rewards, you know, are not fecund. Now, some lead to the exact opposite of the pleasure that
Correct.
you get initially. Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, like when you read the Quran, right? So even to your very point, the Injil, as we Muslims call it, is the other half of the Bible. That is the gospel, right? So you would have, so for us, your four holy books, because it's in the Abrahamic faith system. So the four holy books are the Torah, the Zabeel, which are the sons of David, the Injil, which is the gospel that was brought by Jesus, and then finally the Quran itself. And so when you go into the Injil, GG, it says there is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof is death. Right? And so now let's go into the things that we enjoy as a people in American society. So that one of the things that we enjoy is that we enjoy fornication, right? So I'm not going to sit up here and say that I'm holier than thou, right? Again, you know, we've all have life experiences, but so look at what happened, right? So Allah says, for the fornicators, I'll give you poverty and disease. And what has our community seen as a result of fornication, right? Poverty and disease. So, so we have missing people. We have missing people from abortions. We have high rates of herpes, HIV, so, again, HIV and everything else. And this behavior has what? It has prevented us from engaging in the factors of production, which are land, labor, capital, entrepreneurship. And at the center of that circle graph for the factors of production is, guess what? Family, right? And so engaging in this type of behavior has ultimately prevented us from creating family and then simultaneously exposing us to disease, right? And so what happens is that what Islam offers you is that it offers you a way to turn away from the jahiliyyah that a lot of what's offered currently in our society, right? Because if you go back into the Injil, to the Bible, into the book of Revelation, what do they say? In the book of Revelation, they're talking about a future land, a mystery Babylon, right? Where there's a place where people are engaged, in all manners of sin. So remember how we talked about before. There's a hadith in, I don't know if for Kendra or somebody in the chat, if you remember, they said that there's a hadith. So in Islam, we have a figure called the Dajjal. The Dajjal will be that.
You went out. Yeah, you went out, brother. Yeah, so he went out. So he's going to have to come back. So Marcus Bowden, I want to draw attention to his super chat. He says, I find it interesting that Islam invented algebra, trigonometry, chemistry in universities via Moors in Spain, yet the majority of people who practice Christianity were predominantly illiterate. Well, so we got
We're gonna
Sandog back
have to,
into the
but
stream. Yeah, you
yeah,
you went out for a minute. You just zoned out. I don't know where you went.
okay,
So
okay,
yeah, you were talking. If you were talking, you completely went out of the stream for about a minute.
okay. So remember how we talked before? There's a figure called the Dajjal, and what they said in the hadith was that the Dajjal will be very attractive to women and children. And he will be so attractive to women and children to the point that you would have to tie them up to prevent them from leaving the house and running to them, right? And so, nowadays, like, again, through the materialism, through the music, what I'm saying, again, through culture, because when you look at marketing and advertising, right, a lot of it is directed at women and children. So think about it. And one of the biggest things I could prove to you in terms of marketing and advertising is that according to television, right, for many black women, the assumption is that all black men that are well-to-do are married to white women. Where do they get that from? They get it from television,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But you know what I'm saying? Because that's how it's marketed. But when somebody comes up and gives them actual statistics, in facts, it's still a hard pill. It's still a hard pill. It's still a hard pill for them to. It's still a hard pill for them to swallow because that image or what they see on TV, like I said, it's there, right? And like I said, ironically enough, Gigi, just kind of backing it up. If you go in the beginning of time before man, Islamically, the devil himself or Shaitan is not an angel. He is something known as a jinn, right?
A
And
genie,
jinn
yeah.
and jinnis are beings made of smokeless fire. And in the previous world before this one, his name was Iblis, and he had accomplished good deeds that allowed him to be in the presence of angels. He himself was not an angel, according to our belief. So when God made Adam, peace be upon him, he commanded first of all, the angels came to Allah and said, peace be upon the angels. And they said, are you going to make another who's going to cause bloodshed upon the earth? And God said, I know that which you do not know. And he commanded all of creation to bow in front of Adam. And everybody bowed except for Iblis. And Iblis looked at Adam and said, that thing is made of clay and dirt, and I made a smokeless fire. How could you choose that over me? I'm better than he is. Right? And then
Right.
at that point, he was cast out. He asked Allah for respite. I always mispronounce the word. And he said, for those of you, Allah said, for those who will follow me, and those who will follow you, again, they will face those consequences. And so now you look at it in terms of the devil got kicked out of heaven over arrogance, bigotry, racism, right? So when human beings sit back of any skin color, so even in Islam, racism itself is a sign of disbelief. It's a state of kafir.
Oh, wow. So look, we're gonna take a break right quick because you just put a lot of facts out there, and I don't know if the people are really ready to receive it all in one sizable chunk. So we're gonna break this down a little bit. We're gonna come right back. We're gonna have another commercial break, and when we come back from the commercial break, we're gonna continue this conversation. All right, my brother.
Real,
The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. Yeah, so we're back. I'm the G with a PhD. You're tuned into the Green Gorilla Channel, the place where black men can express themselves freely, straight up no chaser. Today I'm joined with my guest and my frat brother Sandal, also known as Admiral Smoke. And we're having a conversation about Islam, pre-Islamic, Arabia, and the condition of black people in America, or African Americans, or ADOS, FBA, however you want to nominate it. So I want to cover some questions that were presented though in the chat. So you got this one brother who made mention of the idea or the fact that he says he finds it interesting that Islam invented algebra, trigonometry, chemistry, and universities via Moors in Spain, yet the majority of people who practice Christianity were predominantly illiterate. What do you have to say about that, Sandog?
Well, because here's the thing. Contrary to popular belief, Islam did not have forced conversions, right? When this time period, what this is called Andalusia, like I said, again, as the Muslims called it. And so you're talking about the building of the first universities in Spain, Oxford universities, and others. So they were there ruling over the society. They were the managers of the society, but it wasn't a thing of it wasn't a thing of sore point and people converting to Islam. So, like, again, the popular play by Shakespeare, remember Othello, right? If that can give somebody any insight in terms of, what things were like for Muslims, what things were like, with Muslims, dealing with Europeans, I'm saying, at the time. But they did go there and they did bring, quote unquote, a lot of advancement into Europe. So you're talking about medical school. The city of Cordova in Spain had sidewalks and street lights and, the beginning of what will be sewage systems and everything else.
Right. So, I don't know, I'm not an pre-Islamic scholar. I know a little bit about the ancient world, only
Yeah.
insofar as of my studies related to philosophy. So of course I know about Persia. I know about the land of Ur. I know about the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. I know about Zoroastrianism. I know about a whole host of excuse me, Persian influences on the ancient world. And
Yeah. But
go ahead.
But not to cut you off, Gigi, but you know quite a bit. This is what people don't understand. The golden age of the Islamic era, when people think Islam, they think Arab, and that is a mistake. When you talk the golden age of the Islamic era, a lot of people may have had Arabic names, but they were many national. Saladin himself, who liberated Jerusalem, was Kurdish, right? The Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, he was Persian, right? To your very point. And so when you look at Islam and its influence in the golden age, man, these people were everything between Africans, Indians, etc.
Right. And so, the person who created algebra, his name is Muhammad ibn Musa al Khwarizmi. I mean, he has a longer name than that, but he's known as the father of algebra. Um, if, I go back and forth about the notion of, the Moors being Africans. I mean, of course, there were some Africans among the Moors, but to qualify them independently and solely as African, I think is a little bit
Well, many of
it's
them
a
were.
little
So
bit
what happened?
intellectually dishonest. But I mean, a great bulk of these people were Africans, though. Make no bones about it. Okay, that's a fact. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
correct. So when you talk about the Moors too, you're also including the peoples of North Africa, the fair-skinned indigenous people of North Africa called Berbers.
correct.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying. So you're also including those people, and that's what I'm trying to say. So even when you look at the African American experience in Jim Crow, for example, so when you look at like a lot of the housing scandals that came as a result of redlining, like in Chicago, where they would overcharge black people exorbitant rents or mortgages if they gave them. And then they would take the interest that they earned and use that and develop other communities, right? And so in the pre-Islamic era, you have certain communities that were guilty of using debt and usury to do the exact same thing. And this is what caused conflicts between you know what I'm saying, this is what caused conflicts between different groups, because what they would do is that they would charge insane amounts of debt to other people, but not to each other and amongst each other, right? And so for African Americans, this was something that also happened to us, you know what I'm saying, during the Jim Crow period. And so even in Islam, you know, ending up in debt is tantamount to slavery, to the point where it says on the day of judgment, people who engage in debt, we call it riba, and people who engaged in riba, to the point that on the day of judgment, it says the prophet, peace be upon him, and Allah will make war against you, right? Because again, because these are weapons, these are financial instruments or weapons that perpetually keep people poor or enslaved.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and that was the thing. And even in Islam, so even in Islam, although there was slavery, one, it wasn't based on race, because the Arab slave trade for the most part was global. First and foremost, they would enslave weaker Arab tribes. Another thing was that they took a lot of slaves out of Europe, right? So even wealthy Africans like Mansa Musa are known for having Turkish slaves that they bought when they went to Hajj, because the European narrative has painted it as such, where slave means black. And that's not the case. Even Thomas Jefferson, the Barbary pirates, they were capturing Europeans and enslaving them, right? To the point where Thomas Jefferson and the, you know, implored them to stop capturing Europeans, right?
Right.
And selling them, because, you know, that was quote unquote, you know, not the thing to do, you know, not the thing to do at the time. So a lot of people, you know, when you look at the Arab slave trade in and of itself, it wasn't something that was based on race. And also, you cannot be a slave in perpetuity. And one of the biggest acts of piety in Islam is to free a slave. So if GG's a Muslim and he saw me, you know, and chains, you know, slaved up and everything else, and you dropped that $200 and told me, hey, I'm free to go and to live my life again, that was a on your behalf, and in the eyes of God, that will be a huge benefit to the both of us.
Yeah, I was going to ask you a question about that because there are some people who say that the first enslavers of Africans were Islamic. And you know, if that's the case, why should we put so much trust in the Abrahamic religion
No,
of
the
Islam?
first enslavers, what you need, this is what people need to understand, is this: the first enslavers of Africans uh, were Africans. Look, but Africa was powerful during that time. During that time, you have the Abyssinian Empire. So I'll give you game. The Muslims had been oppressed so much, Gigi, during that time, that Muhammad sent his followers to a place for sanctuary amongst pious people. And you know where he sent them? He sent them to Ethiopia.
Oh, I can. You know, look, don't. I understand. Like Ethiopia has always been held in esteem throughout all nations, throughout the
Yeah.
entirety of the world. And look, let me also say this: slavery, to some extent or the other, is a has been a ubiquitous practice amongst the human population.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest about this, okay? But what's different though about the kind of slavery that black people experienced in America was that it was perpetual.
Yes.
This was a kind of new stigmatization that had never seen before. I mean, we already know that the word slave comes from the word Slav, which
Correct.
which has to do with Slavic peoples, like a branch of the Germanic tribe of peoples. Okay, Eastern European peoples. But it is true, even within the context of slavery in Africa, it was of a different kind qualitatively than that people of African descent experienced within the United States of America, or even in the entirety of America. I'm talking about Saint Domingue, Jamaica, uh, and elsewhere. Okay, um, but I'm
Yeah,
going to push
but
back on you. I'm only because for people who are critical, I gotta ask you the question, right? Okay, so
yeah,
we know that Islam could be just as organized around violence as any other religion, right?
hmm
Christianity. So how are we to trust and that this is the right direction to go in for black folks? And then not only that, what do you think about the Nation of Islam, which is not acknowledged by Orthodox Islam as being that I don't know what language to use, but it's not Orthodox Islam, right? What do you think
yeah.
about that as a means by which to acclimate black people to Islam, especially black men? Okay.
Well, the, here, here's the thing. So, for example, so historically, so when going back to the first thing that you mentioned in terms of why should you trust it? So, at the end of the day, right? There's two statements. When in the Injil, Jesus, peace be upon him, made a mention. It said, "Study and show thyself approved." Right. So, thyself in the singular, right? Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he first started to receive revelation from the angel Gabriel, peace be upon him, Gabriel grabbed Muhammad and told him to read. And he said, "I cannot read, or ikra, ikra, read in the name of your Lord." And so, what people need to understand is that the practices, because I could I could challenge it because you all know that I lived in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, and these other places. And a lot of these places, when you think of Islam, you connect it to these people. But what you don't understand is that a lot of these people are still practicing their tribal condition, their tribal traditions and their culture. They're not actually practicing the religion.
So you're saying that
So
they're fronting as if they're Islamic, but they're still caught up in
correct, correct,
their tribalism
correct.
and their okay.
Correct. So I have younger brothers, or kind of like adopted younger brothers who are Afghani, Pakistani, and everything else. And one time we were on the phone for 3 hours, and he wanted to tell me about his problems or his gripes with the religion, and why he wasn't feeling it. And the whole time that we were on the phone for the 3 hours, all the gripes that he brought up had to do with his culture. It had nothing to do with the religion. So every time he brought up a gripe, I was telling him the exact opposite. And I was like, maybe you should read this for yourself instead of just simply taking somebody's word for it.
Right. Look, let's face it. Any of the major religions, especially the Abrahamic religions, anybody, it's just like the fraternity we talked about. That's why I wanted to have that discussion at the beginning of this
Yeah,
cast, because you could take an organizational structure and it'd be a relatively benign structure or ritual or a set of practices, a set of principles and ideals, and use them for good or use them for bad.
yeah,
I mean, you could take the word of God and twist it and use it for ill purposes, ill suited purposes, or for
correct.
purposes towards which the ideals were not actually, they weren't intended for that purpose. So it's like a double-edged sword. You could use it for good or for bad. It could cut you. The sword it swings both ways. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Right. Um, I this is just my view of black people in America, though, more than any other thing. Okay, it doesn't matter what you decide to pick up or to take up as an institutional, religion, or as an official religion, because black people were, before they moved to the north from the south, they were like devout Christians. Okay, uh, that eroded as we became more and more secularized and began to participate more and more in secular culture. And right now, uh, the television, the internet, video gaming, social media, this is taking over any structure whereby black people can have a self-contained ethos. Because our ethos is now the popular ethos. And there's
Yes.
6 companies. This is why it's so important, and I try to talk to people about this. The media, what goes into black people's brains is not controlled by black people at all. From
Yes.
kindergarten, as soon as you send your kids off to preschool, you've given over the brains of your children to the master. I mean, bottom line, you've given it over to the master, because most people don't have the money to give their children private education. So where do they get their education? They get it from the public school system. But the public
Yeah.
school system teaches them what? And who primarily are the teachers? It's white women who are the teachers,
Yeah.
primarily. Okay? So you send your black kid off to school to learn, and they're at that school how long throughout the day? Let me see.
Eight
You
hours.
take them, you take them there for 8 hours. Then you bring them home. You don't interact with them for 8 hours at home and give them the same kind of tutelage that they receive or indoctrination that they receive while they're in the school.
Mm-hmm.
Then the parents most often aren't even connected or tethered to the school, or they have some sort of interaction with the teachers, the administration, and they don't participate in helping, with the education of these kids. So it's like you're sending your kids off to a concentration camp every day, and you don't know what they're learning. You don't know what their value systems are. You really don't have time because you're too busy working. Because you got to put
Yeah.
food on the table, right?
Yeah.
Um, so we're handing over the minds of our children to the Western world, to Mammon, and
Yes.
we had to do something. I mean, what you put in, the investment you put in is the reward that you get out. You reap what you sow, and right now we're allowing the master to educate our children. That can't that'll never result in a productive outcome for black folks, man. We had a system whereby we were educating ourselves. We had parallel institute prior to the civil rights movement and desegregation. We had parallel institutions that black people controlled and organized until that time. And then after
Yes.
that, everything began to dissolve. Okay?
But
So
there's a, but Gigi, what happens is that there are correlations between religion and culture, and so what you have to. So, for example, what during the slave trade, many of us were Muslim anyway. When we came over here, it was beaten out of us,
oh
right?
yeah,
So,
the
so,
first the
so
first
many.
slave, the first people, the first Africans that came over here were Arab. Well, not Arabic, but were Islamic.
Yeah, yeah. So they were, they were Muslims, and what a lot of people don't. Again, Arabs are the minority when it comes to Islam. Most of your Muslims are from Greater Asia and Africa,
Gotcha.
right? So
Right.
again, so that's one. They are the minority. They are the minority in the religion, actually. And so, when you look at it, because what you have to remember is that, also too, you got to remember, as of now, from a geopolitical sense, a lot of Christianity especially has been Europeanized or weaponized against you. And so the thing is that Islam is something that exists outside of the context of European of European or the Western quote and unquote material experience. And
Yeah.
so
So so
what
so 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 let's look at this. Like, okay, so in
Yeah.
2015, Indonesia, which people don't normally associate with Islam, but it has the largest population of Muslim people.
Yes.
Indonesia, okay, that's 2015. India is next. Okay, Pakistan after that, Bangladesh after that, and then you get Nigeria, then you get Egypt, then you get Iran, Turkey, Algeria, and Iraq. Okay, so that just speaks to what you just said. Okay, now as it pertains to their projections of where we will be related to 2060, because that's what everybody points to as the projection of the future, 2060. Okay, so
Yeah.
the, so in 2060 they say India will be number one, Pakistan will be number two, and Nigeria will be number three related to, you know, the top countries that will have Muslim populations. Okay,
Yes.
and what people don't realize, American American society is predicated upon Christian culture. Okay, because if you look back at Western culture, stemming, from far back as the time when Constantine made Rome, made Christianity the official religion of Rome. Christianity has been that religion of the Western world. Okay, prior
Yes.
to that, you had what the Greek gods, you had the Roman gods, then you had Baalism, Gnosticism, Mithraism, uh, Zoroastrianism. All of these religions existed in the city of Alexandria in one place.
Yeah.
Okay, but then you got the Christian bishops, in particular Cyril. I mean, this guy comes in, and Cyril is the person who burned down the Library of Alexandria. Okay,
Hmm.
uh, the bishop who killed Hypatia, and basically set the trajectory of the Western world for the next millennia, well, 2 millennia actually. So here we are today. The West has always been a Christian nation, but the West is not. Christianity does not make up the largest amount of the world's religious population.
Yeah.
Right? Islam does. Muslims are the they have the biggest number, right, in relation to religious affiliation and identity. They're larger than Christianity, right? So that's just something you should know,
Yeah.
if you don't know.
So again, just so you know, for these populations of people, right, they too themselves have been heavily influenced and damaged by colonialism,
Oh,
right? So
everyone the world over has been damaged by colonialism. Don't get,
yeah.
let's not get
Yeah.
that twisted.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So what Yeah. So again, so because what you have to remember is that Asian cultures too are very high on conformity, right? So it's not, you're not gonna get, let's say, like in the United States, where you have the concept of, the individual achievement of man, right? So for them, both to their good and to their detriment, they may be subject to whatever the hierarchy, is at that particular time, like I said, at that particular time in history. So as a result, so like for example, in places like India and Pakistan, the highest selling beauty product is a thing called Fair and Lovely. Like again, like a skin brightener, or like I said, or a skin washener. But I want to go back and make a quick point. And the point that I wanted to make was when Muhammad sent his followers to Ethiopia, just so people know that Africa was not a place where anybody could just pick up and tap dance and go to. Because the Negus of Ethiopia, when the pagan Arabs came, when they chased Muhammad's followers to Ethiopia, they had political ties with the Negus of Ethiopia. And they had to ask him to release those people to them. And ultimately, he allowed the Muslims to plead their case. And he said, your religion and my religion are like two beams of light coming from the same source. You know, and he looked at the pagan Arabs and said, I will not hand these men over to you. They are safe with me. Right? So guess what happened? At that point, they had to accept his decision. Do you think that they were going to pick up and come from Arabia and throw down with the Abyssinian Empire? No. You know, so, again, not even close. And so, what people need to understand is that you're looking at you can't look at the slave trade or other forms of slavery the same way you could look at the transatlantic slave trade. They were all, like I said, they were all very different things. You said
Okay. Well,
very
well, we're
different
gonna.
things.
Well, look, we're gonna stop there, because I got something to do. But we want to. I
Yeah,
want to. I want to extend an olive branch and allow you to extend this conversation uh, and to answer some questions about it. But what I want to do is, if there's anybody who would like to ask some questions, or they agree or disagree, they can do so now. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to open this up for anybody,
yeah,
but you have to ask a question and keep it brief if you do, right? I'm going to bring Liquid and to see if he wants to ask a question because he's got first dibs for it.
yeah.
And then after that, if anybody else would like to ask a question, because what I need to start doing is trimming these shows down to about an hour in length. And right now they're just
Okay.
extended to 2 hours at a time. And that's just, it's I love the long length of the show. I mean, trust me, I enjoy having these conversations. They're like the highlight of my day. But
Yeah,
after a certain period of time, people stop watching and the content becomes such that they never end up watching it all anyway. So I just want to keep it timely. But I'm gonna allow Liquid to ask a question if he wants to, and then anybody else. But
yeah,
you got to come on now, chime in if you do, because there's some people saying some things like, well, Arabs, they were our first enslavers, and Islam was the first slave religion to Africa, and so therefore, how could you dare trust them, right?
no,
Uh,
yeah,
so anyway, man Friday is asking. The topic is ultimately, just for those who don't know, the topic is the connection between the condition of people in pre-Islamic Arabia and black people in the Western world at the current moment. The condition, one could argue, is very similar, namely that you got a bunch of people who don't have a unified ethos, they don't have a lot of discipline, they don't have a strong family structure, and a whole host of other conditions that obtain, right? And so Sandog is saying that there's something similar to the condition of pre-Islamic Arabia and what's occurring now related to black people in the
yeah.
Americas. That's
And
the conversation. Okay.
yeah,
So
and if you yeah, and if you notice, Islam also gave them a degree of protection during colonialism because they were unified during the religion, whereas in Africa we were thousands of different religions, right? Thousands of different cultures, right? So for them having a unified religion, actually provided a degree of protection when they engaged foreign entities that didn't have their best interest at heart.
gotcha. So let's bring Lance Liquid Ocelot.
Yeah,
Liquid, you got anything to say about the commentary that's taking place thus far?
Yeah, I appreciate the brother and everything he's trying to convey in terms of the Islam situation. My only thing is that it's a lot of other factors, and I know I don't got that much time. I'm still not well versed OD in a lot of this stuff, but he had a point about the poetry situation because I remember when you read World's Greatest People of Color, they mentioned Antar, J.A. Rogers
fact.
wrote
Yeah,
that. So Antar was a poet, and I'm familiar with those aspects. So the pre-Islamic culture is it's a lot of stuff. It's so much stuff, and it's so rich because it's like I'm gonna go back to the Cheikh Diop, and then he said something about how Islam was a unifying factor to some degree, but Cheikh Diop already addressed the fact that a lot of African cultures had a lot of similarities. That's why, and then you have tribes like the Mosi tribe who are able to bring people together, multiple ethnic groups, and as a matter of fact, they celebrate their enemies. So it's like there's a misnomer that there weren't Africans who weren't able to unify. Another thing,
And
in
make
regards
this
to
the last one because I got somebody else in the background.
okay, yeah. So another thing in regards to that too is that a lot of Africans still practice their spiritual systems, but they unified with Islam for political purposes, but they were still doing their spiritual practices. So that's it. That's all I gotta say.
Man,
Okay,
thank you, Liquid. I appreciate your contribution, brother.
You're welcome.
correct. And what I'll say is this, right? Guess what? My my spouse is Nigerian, and you're almost at the time of the year of the ritual, right? So in some of those old religions, they're still engaged in human sacrifice. And around this time of year is where people come up missing to be sacrificed at some shrine. So this is the thing when people forget that the world is not always as it was. A lot of the Arabs back then would be indistinguishable from African Americans now. It's like I said, the old world and the new world are two completely two completely different things. And so, that will be another discussion to go in to talk about things from Dr. Ben Yakinen and Sheikh Anti Diop as they will understand Arabia and everything else. So it's a different discussion.
For sure, man. And I'm willing to have that discussion. We could
Yeah,
talk about Ben Yakin's view of Islam. We could talk about, Cheikh Anta Diop. We could talk about
yeah,
Theophilo Benga. We could talk about a whole host of scholars, Runoko Rashidi. We could talk about them. If you want to
yeah.
have that discussion, I will facilitate it. Miss
Rude.
Miss Cure, what's good with you? How you doing?
Hey, how you doing? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Walaikum
Sandar.
salam. How are you, sister?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing good. This is such an awesome conversation. Thank both of you for having this very, very necessary conversation. And I would just like to say, I'm not going to be too long, but I would just like to say that Brother Sandow, you handled this conversation so well and with so much class and dignity and grace. So alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair for answering questions the way that you did and laying out things as clearly and as simply as you did. So I really, really appreciate that and thank you for that. Um, and there's this
Thank you,
couple
sister.
of things that I want to say, and then I'll try to be brief. Um, what the brother is doing, and I don't want to step on any toes, but it seems like there's a little bit of confusion, just a little, in the
Yeah,
chat
yeah.
room. Um, is that I want people to understand what Brother Sandog is saying. It's not necessarily that he's trying to get y'all to convert or proselytizing to you. What he's saying is that the condition of the people in pre-Islam Arabia is similar to our condition as a whole. A broken people, a people without any principles or guidance or boundaries or discipline. There's no spiritual things that actually hold anything in place. We're just kind of doing what we want to do, going about things the way we want to go about them without any sort of accountability or real responsibility of anything. And we're suffering for it. So what he's trying to say is that not necessarily, quote unquote, you have to be Muslim. However, Islam came to the pre-Islamic Arabs like really it needs to come to us, something that gives us construct and direction so that we'll be able to overcome a lot of the dysfunctions that we actually have. And I'm going to say one last thing and keep it super brief. I'm going to end it. This is why I've been talking about the 10 life values. Shout out to Father's Time. I've been talking about that for those who want to address all of the major areas in their life, but you don't want a label, you don't like the label, quote unquote, the label scares you. That's okay. But these areas of our lives need to be addressed, and they need to be addressed properly and not in a haphazard way. This is what the brother is trying to put across. So I know there's a lot going on with the Arabs and the history and Islam, and a lot of different questions and conversations can be had. But I just kind of wanted to bring it back to the point of this conversation. So thank you so much for letting me up and run my
Well,
mouth a little bit.
thank
All
you.
right, welcome. You're always welcome, man. It's the first time you done came on the show, so I appreciate you coming.
No
Anytime you
Yeah,
problem.
want to have
Thank
a
you.
conversation, you're welcome to come to the Green Gorilla
yeah,
channel.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, that's the issue at hand. Black people, we exist in a state in which we don't have a unified ethos. There's a whole host of values that black people subscribe to, none of which were formed by them, for them, and designed to enhance their ability to function, flourish, and thrive within the environment that they find themselves. So that's the issue, right?
Yes,
Um, and it's no secret that popular culture is part and parcel of Western society. It dumbs people down. It lulls them to sleep. It gets them connected or joined to or married to uh, consumer culture as opposed to the things that actually matter. And to be quite honest, it's a crisis for white people as well. And the greatest philosophers realize this because there's no meaning to Western culture at the current moment. The people they suffer from anomie, which is a condition of something being amiss, but you can't quite put your finger on it.
yeah,
Uh, uh, and it's because most of people's waking experience is connected to drudgery and toil for no apparent reason. You ask people why they're doing what they're doing, they can't really give you uh, uh, a coherent reason why. I mean, they may
correct,
say, "Well, I'm trying to get cash, or I'm trying to get money, or I'm trying to be successful." Well, successful what, and for what reason, and why, and what value does your success, have in the grand scheme of not just
correct.
your life, but in the life of your children
And the
for
reason why
generations to
people are
come?
correct, and the reason why people are checking out is because it's unnatural. So, for example, even in Islam, when you're talking about dealing with poverty, we have something that's called zakah. So, think about the way you pay your income taxes every year, right? So, imagine if your income taxes went to the poor, right? What does that do for crime? What does that do for the funding of schools, education, etc.? Right? And so, again, so like taxes, we have a way of calculating it in terms of what you own and what your assets are. And every year you donate that money and it goes, and like I said, it goes into a fund. It goes into the fund, that's managed by the state. And like I said, and like I said, you help the poor. So like I said, so just imagine that in America, if you had something like where a portion of the income taxes collected by the federal government. I mean, I guess you can argue Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever, but imagine, taking, I'm saying, taking hundreds of millions of dollars, again, billions of dollars and everything else directly for the needs of the poor.
Right. So look, this culture. Like, I thought about this earlier today, and it's not exactly connected to this, but it is connected to the conversation we're having. Uh, for most people, life is a game, and money is how you keep score. But of course, the society that we live in is a construct. It's not real. It's
Yeah.
it's something that human beings created, right? And it's unfortunate that the way I see it, anyway. I mean, it was just a thought that I had earlier today.
No, but
The very
correct though. But I'm sorry, Gigi, just to cut you off. But Islam says the same thing. It says this life is but an illusion. It is a test, and it says, and Islam says that for a believer, the world as you see it now is a prison. It doesn't make sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, well, especially given the context of the world in which we live, but like you have to think about the things that actually matter. And we earlier we had a conversation about being able to have all you want, like a surplus of material. Now you need material in order to subsist, and you need to have some modicum of abundance of it in order to not be stressed out about how you're going to subsist, right? And when you have a lack of it and you feel like at every turn you're consistently confronted with challenges that are really illusory to begin with. There's no need, there's too much in this society actually at this point, and too much in the world for people to not subsist and to be comfortable. But the system in and of itself admires you in anxiety. And it's designed to be that way so that you continue to drudge and toil for someone else. Okay, this is the way the system is designed, to keep you off balance and to be worried about things you ought not to be worried about. Okay? And another funny thing about this culture that we live in, again, I'm saying what's real and what do people put their efforts and energy into, and what's not real and what do they put their effort and energy into. Think about this. At the current moment, and I'm not trying to say anything negative about women today, okay? But just think about this. We have a situation, a social situation in which women are deciding that their children are less valuable than their careers. And that they would rather invest more time and energy and effort into the development of their career, which is a neoliberal project. It's a project in which you're trying to gain a modicum of honor and status within the context of the construct of society. You can call it a matrix, you can call it whatever you want to call it, right? So there's an analogy for it in popular culture. Some people say the rat race, the matrix, the trap, whatever you want to talk, however you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
But then we know that like life can be otherwise. That like when we die, when we're about to, pass to the next phase of existence, right? That won't matter. What will matter is our friendships. And that just draws us back to what we're honoring today. Because at the end of the day, none of this material shit matters. It matters only insofar as it gives us the ability to do what's important, which is to forge friendships.
Yes.
Which is to experience love, which is to utilize patience in dealing and interacting with others. All this other shit yeah, we like to have material things. We want to be honored. We want to be valued. We want to be looked at and perceived as people who are endowed with innate dignity. But at the end of the day, all of this shit that we're engaged in, man, the society that we live in is sick. It is sick. And we want to be successful within the confines and within the scope and range of it, but we have to be mindful of what's actually important. And there are a whole host of philosophers who've made comments about how sick Western culture is. Western philosophers, right? About how this culture. One of the things how I know that this society is getting sicker and sicker, that there's no meaning in people's lives, is that they try to find meaning in anything. So now people try to find meaning. Men try to find meaning in being women. Or women try to find meaning in being men. Or people try to find meaning in, their identity. And it just goes to show you that they have no secure identity to begin with. Because that's all anytime you start trying to find identity in the absurd, it means that the bottom is falling out from underneath your culture. So
it's decadence, yeah.
The bottom is falling out from underneath your culture. So and in this society, there are no authentic roles. He fell out of the conversation, but there are no authentic roles that people play and that they take up and participate in. We were having this conversation the last time. If you are an Indian boy, upon your maturation and your introduction into manhood, you would have to go through a series of ordeals. It could be weeks, it could be up to a month of rituals whereby you actually became a man and you became a meaningful member of the tribe, and you were cut off from the ties that you had with your mother, right?
Yes.
And you actually became a warrior. It wasn't something that you did part-time. It wasn't something that you put on like a mask. You were the genuine article, baby. You were the real deal. You get what I'm saying? You are that. You are the warrior. You're not a weekend warrior. You're not a warrior for hire. You are a warrior. But in this culture, there's no similar analog to that because nobody knows who they are. And even what you are is split into different pieces. And people, so you could be a fucking writer, a movie maker one day, and then I don't want to do that anymore. I'm gonna be a musician the next. Okay, well I don't want to do that anymore. I'm gonna be a psychologist. Okay, well that's not good. I'm gonna be a teacher. Like you can be so many different things that you can never be anything. And that's the problem with this culture, man. Like, and you could tell this, and you could tell the problem is deep seated. It's so deep seated that people don't even know what to do with their own sexuality and their own family lives anymore. That's how you know. That is how you know the society is it's unraveling at the seams. So
yeah, man.
So anyway, so yeah, brother. Thank you for man, dog. It's always good to fellowship with you and to have a good conversation with you, brother. And we got to come back, man, and pick this up where we left off. But you can do this every week, dog. You already know you're welcome to come on my channel and talk anytime, bro.
Dog rule, yeah, man, yeah. We could, like I said, we could do a special, like again, when you talked about like brothers, bringing up like NOI and everything else, man. Yeah, we could, next go round, we could have that conversation.
Let's do it, my brother. And man, I want you to have a joyous and a wonderful Founders Day, brother. And to all the other brothers out there, man, who watched tonight, thank you so much for joining us. I want to give a shout out to everybody who made a contribution. And thank you so much, Kendra, for coming on the channel. It was good to have your presence here.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you here. And, I appreciate your spirit. I want to thank Rasheed Barnes. I want to thank all of the members who are out there in the chat who held the chat down and didn't allow for any, craziness going on tonight. Look, I just appreciate you all. I want to thank MLR for his contribution on Cash App. But y'all be peaceful, man. Enjoy your evenings. And I will see y'all Thursday. Peace out, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah. I'm a phenomenon, I shine like Orion. I came in a rap gang to smack it up like Heron, transform it like Megatron. Wait, like Yamatron, most rappers are some peons. I'ma starve them like Ramadan, I'm troublesome. You don't really want no troublesome, cause I pop guns like hood chicks do bubble gum. I been dumb, gon' stay that way till kingdom come. When the sun I'm man, unleash a demon, a polygon. I'm heavy, son, got more knowledge than Farrakhan, more gang than Cap. Karma that bitch, some name done one. Stay lit off some Shandan, maybe Bacardi Ram, stay drink with some Nordstrom. Call me that Dapper Don, more violent than Genghis Khan. The members of Taliban, niggas faker than silicon. Get hit like a .com, like soldiers in Lebanon. I'm bringing that red rum. When I get through with you, son, you gon' think I'll see rap. I carry weight like a heavyweight. Bake more cakes than patty cake. Watch the fiend salivate. You a lightweight, bantam weight. Better contemplate. If you violate, make you levitate to the pearly gates. I fascinate when I conversate from the show me state where these niggas left the hate and hot murder rate. What a waste. But this flow is just a taste of God's grace. Shining this light in the ugly place. In the prophecy, got more wisdom than Socrates' philosophies. You don't really want no parts of me. Can't you see? I'm slicker than Mephistopheles, stronger than Hercules, more dangerous than the Damocles. The MCs trying me pretty please. I wet up they white tees, knock them out they wallabies. Now they touch my deliries. For coming up short of the little C's when I break out the killer bees. I study music by Caucasian, hit chicks look like Ashanti. When I'm breaking them off, they yell at odd poppy. You rack rappers is sloppy, you can't stop me with that. We can sorry, copy, malarkey. I'm a monster like Frankenstein, rock harder than Palestine. You slimes, dropping dimes, a snake and serpentine. Can't stand to see me glow like Nas with his big shine. All you haters cold in it, cold sores, need calamine. But my hot shit like red bricks hitting your head. Leave the sour taste up in your mouth like lemon heads, like Simply Red. Wasted some years up in the fans when I touched down. Already red, that gave me head. I got higher vision for higher living. I'm highly driven. I'm acting women like it's some sort of sick religion. Driving an Impala, sitting on it, these 20 inches, and they spinning just like the planets in the solar system.
Black country people, over in Africa, down to America. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around, yes. Black country people, up in Canada, down to Jamaica. Black country people, we make all the world go round and around.
You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you.